Hey everyone, welcome back to the Made for More podcast, a podcast where we discuss personal development and leadership development. We want to make sure that we're challenging ourselves to grow as individuals so that we can motivate, inspire, and encourage those around us. We want this podcast to be a challenge for every single one of us because as individuals, if we are not growing, then how do we expect to pour into other people's lives? No one person can pour from an empty cup. And that's why this podcast exists. It is Monday, November 24th. Today is just a quick episode to tell you thank you. It is Thanksgiving week, so I wanted to take a quick break from our book that we have started, the book called Endure by Cameron Haynes that we are discussing. Next week, Dan and I will pick back up. But this week, I just wanted to take a quick break and say thank you. Thank you to all the listeners. Thank you to all the people that have been support to us. Not just because it's Thanksgiving week, but we will get to that in just a second as far as our challenge from today's podcast. I want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching right now on YouTube, you will see that one of my favorite shirts that I have is, it looks like a Snickers shirt, but it says discipline. Just one of my favorite shirts. Again, wanting to say thank you to those listening, those watching, but also have a challenge for us today. Simple challenge, wanted to make it quick so that we can listen to this and work on it the rest of this week. But as we enter this Thanksgiving week, there's a powerful question that can shape not just how we reflect on the year, but how we can grow from it, right? I think so many times I have looked at where I'm at right now. If I stop and I look at the previous 10 and a half months, it's so easy to look at the things that have challenged me in a way that maybe helped me grow, but I don't see it as growth. I see it as maybe something that has been an interruption, something that maybe I didn't like, maybe something that has challenged me to a place where I didn't see it as growth. Even though growth came from it, in that moment, I didn't see it as growth. So one of the things that I want to ask you today to walk with me through, to walk through this week, is just this simple question. A simple question for this week, and it's this. What lesson am I thankful for this year? What lesson or lessons am I thankful for this year? And I know it sounds simple. But if we are not careful, we can frame our experience, this lesson, this thing that happened to us this year. We can frame our experience in this lesson in a way that leads us down the wrong path, right? So it's like when someone sees the same or has the same problem or same circumstance as someone else, but they see it a different way, and everybody wonders, well, how did they do this? How did they overcome this? It's the same problem that I have, but how did they get here? It's because they framed it different in their mind. And that's what I want us to be careful with, is when we say, what lessons am I thankful for this year? It sounds simple, but if we're not careful, we can see these lessons and experiences from this year, and it can take us down the wrong mental path for sure. A path I'd say would be a negative mental path would be, why'd this happen to me, right? Why did this happen to me? And again, I'm not belittling what circumstance you're in. I don't know where you're at. I'm just asking you to reframe the way you think about something that happened this year and learn from it. Why did this happen to me? That's the wrong mental path. I can't believe I had to deal with that, right? That's almost a sense of entitlement. Like, I'm beyond that. I'm above that. This setback derailed everything. Well, not everything, because you're still alive. You're still breathing. And I'm sure that from a different perspective, if that happened to someone else, they could grow from it. So that's why I'm saying today, I want you to ask yourself this entire week to maybe just sort through some thoughts and write down a few. What lessons or lesson am I thankful for this year? I believe that the path the path in the mental negative path, if we go down that road, it can lead to bitterness, right? Resentment, of maybe others, people that are really close to you, people that may have hurt you that they don't know. Victim mentality. Woe is me, right? And if we let it, then our mind will definitely camp out right there. And when your mind begins to camp out somewhere, it translates to comfort, right? And when something gets so comfortable, comfort is more dangerous than failure. Comfort is more dangerous than failure, because when you're comfortable thinking of the mindset of victim mentality or a mindset of bitterness or resentment, and you get comfortable in that, everything you think through, everything that happens to you, everything that you see goes through the lens of victim mentality, bitterness, resentment, and it's because you're comfortable there. And I don't want us to be comfortable there. And I'm going back to that situation where the same thing can happen to a different person and they see it in a different light. It's because they have framed it differently. So there's another path than that negative mentality, right? There's a higher one, a more empowering one that I want us to take. And it begins with reframing the things that have happened to us this year. So what lesson are you thankful for this year? And maybe it begins with you reframing something right now. Maybe you've looked at it negative this whole year, right? Maybe you've looked at it in a bad light or a victim light or resentment or bitterness. Maybe you just need to reframe it today as you're listening to this. Again, life is going to give you and me and every single person that lives on this earth, challenges, disruptions, heartbreak, delays, and definitely detours. That's just the experience that we have here on earth, right? So there's a difference between resentment and resilience. And it begins with this lens that we're going to choose to look through. Resentment will take you down one path. Resilience will take you down the other. So again, what lesson or lessons are you thankful for? And when we're shifting from that victim mentality to what did I learn? It's almost like a student, right? When you and I go to class, when we're in elementary or middle school or high school and you're learning something, right? There is you can cheat, but it's going to come out eventually that you didn't learn something. And when you don't learn something, you repeat it over and over and over again, right? So in life, you and I have to see it in the light of being a student, and it may take a shot at our ego and we may have to just be humbled, right? But we have to look at it from a resilient mind rather than resentment and victim mentality. So it's things like we would say this is, I refuse to let this break me. I'm going to let this reshape the way I think. I'm going to walk out wiser than when I walked in. Those are the kind of things I want us to say. When we frame our mind in these lessons that we've gone through, these circumstances that we walk through, when we frame our mind instead of losses, I believe that our emotions change towards it instead of being sad, angry, depressed. When you change your mind into what lessons have I learned, you're looking right through the lens of something to find that you can grasp to go, this is what I'm thankful for. This is what I'm thankful for. And what lessons, I'm going to repeat it again, what lessons or lesson am I thankful for this year? Not what was the easiest, even though it could be fun. I'm not asking what was what was fun, what went perfectly, right? That's not what I'm asking, but rather what stretched me in a way that made me leap or jump, start something new. What humbled me, and that's a tough one, but lean into that, write that stuff down. What tested me and what did not, and what did that test reveal? What tested me and what did that test reveal? What forced me to grow into someone stronger, someone more aware, and someone more grounded? And I believe that sometimes these lessons we're most thankful for are disguised as the moments that we sometimes want to avoid. And I believe that if I want Made for More to work as a business, I got to go into those moments that I want to avoid, and I got to work my butt off. So for this year, there's things that have happened in our business that have never happened before in the previous years. More clients, but we lost our biggest client. Well, there's something to learn in that. I can choose to be upset because I lost my biggest client. Or I can choose to reframe that and say, I'm so thankful for the past 3 years that I had a client that taught me something, helped me reframe the way I build my business, not to rely on one big client, but to always be looking, to always be growing, to make sure I'm keeping my eyes open to other avenues of growth. So you see, it's how we reframe these lessons of these circumstances that come in. But again, going back to Made for More, this year has taught me so much. We've had one of the most successful years with clients. However, I am saying this, it has been the most challenging year. It has been the most challenging year. And what's interesting about that is the most challenging year has been the most rewarding year with clients. Those two things are on two different tracks, but it has also led to some of the most, I would say, intense turmoil where I've had to look at myself and say, do I really want this? Because we also launched a course that was really, really successful. And now to go, I know the potential's there, and now I got to keep going. Do you see where you have to leap and jump, Mario? And I'm like, yes. Well, do you want that? Yes. Now we got to put in the work. Not everything's gone right this year. It's not perfect, right? I said that earlier. It's not perfect. It was fun, but I'm not just focused on fun. It was not easy, I can tell you that. But what these lessons have taught me is that I can be resilient. I can remove the resentment. I can be resilient. So I think a few questions that I want to end on this, and I want it to be a quick podcast. I just wanted to ask yourself this week as Thanksgiving is coming up, and maybe as you sit with your family, I don't know if you're celebrating with your family. I don't know if you have to work. I don't know what traditions you have, but I know for us, we go back to West Texas and we go to my mom's, and my dad will come over later and we'll celebrate with my dad. But at my mom's, we typically, we started it when my parents were together. We'd pray, and typically that's me because people, for some reason, think that the pastor has to pray all the time. But I'm not a pastor anymore. So, anyways, we pray, we sit together, we watch football. Everybody's eating, everybody's getting served, everybody goes through the line. But I think to be intentional about in those moments, going, man, I'm enjoying my family. But this year, what am I thankful for? What lessons am I thankful for, even though they were tough? What can I pull from this difficult moment to be thankful for? And again, I'm not making light of yours or saying it or minimizing your circumstance, but I'm asking you to reframe it through the lens of resilient, not resentment, not victim mentality. And a few things just to ask yourself to get there, maybe to answer these questions is, what hardship taught me something that I didn't know I needed? What hardship taught me something I didn't know I needed? If I was to answer that for you guys right now, it would have to be that you have to put in the work to figure out different ways to make things happen. Things are not just going to come to you. You have to put in the work to know the market, to sell your brand, to sell yourself, not in an egotistical way, but that you have to believe in yourself to go find ways to make it happen. Another question is, what situation forced me to communicate better, to set boundaries? And here's a key one. What situation forced me to communicate better, set boundaries, or choose myself? Today, we met with a client at State Farm, and one of the individuals said that she really was thankful this year for the word hope. And that hope led to her investing more in herself, because she typically puts the oxygen mask on for others rather than putting it on herself before she puts it on others. And that's coming from being in a plane and they tell you, you know what, put your oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on anyone else. Why? Because you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else. So another couple questions. Maybe you had some disappointments this year. What didn't work out? And what did I learn because of it? If you don't learn from the disappointments, then you're going to repeat the process. If you can write down what you learned from a disappointment, then I promise you, probably 9 times out of 10, you're not going to repeat that action. And you're going to take what you learned from it and approach the situation, approach the event, whatever it is, better in a way that you said, hey, I've tried this and it didn't work, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to pivot here and we're going to do this. Another question is, maybe you're in sales, maybe you're in maybe just life, and you got to know like what, like an no. Maybe someone said no to you. How did a no redirect you towards something better? Are you having to wait? And one of the other things is I told people, I don't know, the last couple of weeks, I know I said it last week on the podcast, that success is just as much a teacher as failure. Success can teach you that your ego is going to grow and that you're going to get comfortable there, like I said earlier. So in success, what worked well and what did it teach you about who you're becoming? Did it make you more egotistical? Did it make you want to have a larger head as you walk into the room and brag, or did it make you go, this works, and let's roll, let's keep going? What did you do right, and what do you want to build on next year from that? What are you going to take into next year that went really, really well? And then relationships, what did people in my life teach me about love, trust, patience, and letting go? It's not about being perfect. It's about awareness. And I'll tell you something else. Transparent moment here is I have a client that's, I believe, in her 20s. She's a student, a college student down south, and Corpus, I think. And we were having a conversation, and she was discussing with me just some drama that had happened with one of her best friends. And as I was telling her something, God totally, kicked me in the shin with my same words, because I told her, I said, hey, you know what? If you and I are talking in a year from now, and then we're talking about the same thing, then there's probably an issue, and you're holding on to something that is holding you back, and you're comfortable holding on to it. And when I said that, I knew that God was saying, hey, bro, what am I trying to teach you here about trust, about love, about letting go, about patience? And for me, it was about letting go. And over the past couple of weeks, I began to make the process of removing a few things from my life that are holding me back. And so really, I'm just wanting to challenge you really quick as it's Thanksgiving week. And whenever you listen to this, if it's past Thanksgiving, then you can do this whenever. But shifting your mindset, shifting your focus, shifting the lens of that anger, resentment, disappointment, to resilience, to strength, to focus. And again, the question is this: what lessons are you thankful for this year? What lessons are you thankful for, or what lesson are you thankful for this year? Because when you and I begin to hone in on gratitude and thankfulness, I believe that bitterness, resentment begin to break, and the victim mentality, that narrative, begins to go away. So one of the things I'll close with is this: instead of victim mentality, instead of disappointment, instead of resentment, instead of bitterness, why don't we step into ownership, clarity, purpose, maturity, and forward movement? And the way you do that is asking yourself, what did I learn from this situation this year? What lessons did I learn in these difficult moments? Again, that's just a question I want to ask you. It's taking the wisdom from the things that you and I didn't know we were going to walk through, didn't enjoy it, but we're going to learn from it. So that's the challenge. What lesson are you thankful for this year? What lesson or lessons are you thankful for? What can you take away from those lessons? What can you move on with? But I believe that we want to write a future with gratitude and not go back and try to rewrite the past, because you can't, right? We can't. We got to write the future with gratitude, and through the lens of refocusing on resilience and not resentment. And I think it's going to teach us to turn these experiences that we go through into wisdom, and looking for that wisdom in future experiences. And it can help us just reframe the way we see things. So this Thanksgiving, again, don't ask Don't just ask what you're grateful for. Ask yourself and others, what are you grateful for to have learned this year? That's where the growth is going to begin. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate everything that you guys that are listening and continue to listen and share and reach out and encourage me and our team. I appreciate you greatly, so much that you have no idea that I appreciate you. So simple podcast, simple challenge. What are you grateful? What lessons are you grateful for this year? What lessons are you thankful for this year? Or lesson, what did you pull from? What can you take into the rest of the year, especially into next year? But let's choose the path of resilience, not resentment, right? And it starts with gratitude. It starts with reframing your mind to be thankful instead of looking at it as through the lenses of a victim. So I appreciate you guys listening, and quick, straight to the point. And as always, remember, we exist for more. We're here to offer more. Don't ever give up. Every single one of us are made for more. Later, guys.